This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy to see if you could save when you bundle your home and auto policies. Try it at progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Edit audio.
Hello, and welcome back to the Be Well Sis podcast. I am your host, Dr. Cassandre Dunbar. How has life been treating you? But more importantly, how have you been treating yourself? I've been all right. I've been existing, and I've been on these internet streets as I usually am, scrolling. And one thing that has caught me and I've noticed, and I've been talking to like my friends and things about, is how diet culture is back with such a vengeance. I felt like we made a little bit of progress, like maybe 5 years ago, where there was like the body positivity movement and then the body acceptance, the body neutrality movement. And I feel like it's all gone, or most of it has gone by the wayside. There is like this strong push for women, especially, to be smaller and smaller. So today's conversation is going to be unpacking that a little bit. I told you guys that I'm an only child. And one thing that I wish I had so badly was somebody who had been there, done that, and could give me some heads up. Not like a parent, not like a parental figure per se, but like an older sister. So because I'm a lady in my 40s, you know what I mean? I'm auntie. This episode is what I wish I had heard when I was in my late 20s or in my 30s. A couple of years ago, I hosted a documentary viewing. The documentary was called Best Friends Not Forever. And it was a short film about best friend breakups, specifically within the Black community. So Black friends who had gone through breakups. And it was a free event and it was open to anybody here locally. And what ended up happening was that a lot of women came, but it wasn't from a specific age group. We ended up having people in their early 20s. I know there was one woman who spoke, and she was saying how she was attending college at the time, all the way up to people who were in their 60s, and then of course people in between that. And after we watched the film and we were discussing the film, because we had some therapists on board to, help us make sense of our feelings and things like that. One of the things that came up towards the end of the conversation, towards the end of the event, was that women were saying that they were so happy to be in conversation with women who are of different ages. The person who sparked this idea was the 21-year-old. I think she was either 20 or 21, but she was really young. And she was saying how she really loved that there were women in their 30s and 40s, 50s, 60s, because that doesn't happen often. And an older woman also echoed the same sentiment, saying that, they aren't necessarily in community and having these type of conversations with women who are younger. So that made me think about, what are some things that I wish I would have heard from somebody a little bit older than me, who isn't necessarily a relative, or maybe they are a relative. I'm an only child that always wanted a big sister. So this is what this episode is. It is kind of like my little love letter to you. So because I mentioned how diet culture is back and is back with a vengeance, especially as, GLP-1s have been, very mainstream. And there's this push for us to be smaller and smaller and smaller. And I was reading or listening to some commentary by those who are sociologists and anthropologists, who say that there's a strong correlation with whenever the times get harder economically and whenever there is more conservative leadership and ideology, it correlates to not only our hemlines, so our clothes getting much more conservative, our hemlines getting longer, but also there is this push for us to physically get smaller. So with that being said, I want us, as we are being pushed to be so critical and fixating on what we need to fix about our bodies, and I put fix in quotes, and how there's this push for us to be smaller, especially women, I want us to be less critical of our bodies. And I know it is so easier said than done, because I am in a space where, yeah, I've become a little extra critical of my body. And I'll be so for real with you, especially since we've been making more clips to show online and, the YouTube channel, and I see myself more. I find myself dissecting myself more and finding flaws in myself and things that I should fix, can fix, yada, yada. But I want you to be better than me because it is so harmful for us to beat ourselves up. I want to share a thing with you. I came across this quote years ago and it still resonates with me. So it was a tweet. The person who wrote it, her name is at Corvellas. So shout out to her. But she responded in reply to somebody else's tweet. So the other person's tweet was a picture of, I believe it was Kylie Jenner, in like a gown, and she looked great. And the original poster said something to the effect of, "Oh, I wish I looked like this." The response by Carvella was a really long response, but so beautiful. And I'll just read an excerpt of it. And it says, "This makes me really sad to see, especially as I make amends with my body and start to understand its consciousness and the way it speaks to me." She says, "The body loves you so much. It's really doing its best for you. And every time your heart pumps, it's a love letter from the consciousness of your body, who has decided to do everything it can to keep you alive so that you may have a vehicle to experience life. Dot, dot, dot. The body is also you, not just part of you." And she goes on to say how we really need to have more reverence and care and love for our bodies. And it stuck with me because I wish that I knew, especially in my early 30s, where I had just given birth to my first child and my body had changed in a way that I didn't expect it to. Of course, we go through the pregnancy changes and I knew that those changes would happen. But after I delivered my baby, I thought that, within a couple months, I'd be back to my regular. And that didn't happen. And I was so hard on myself because it didn't happen. And what I love about this tweet response that it's a reminder of all that our bodies do for us. While we spend so much time critiquing our bodies for what they aren't or what they are, every cell in our body is literally working so hard to keep us here. And we need to think about that and give our bodies much more credit and give it some reverence. One of the things that I learned in therapy was a reminder that the vessel that we are with, our first homes, we often say it's our mother's wombs. And yeah, that's true. But our first homes are ourselves. Our only homes are ourselves. The voice that we hear constantly is our own voice. So while the world is going to say all types of stuff to us and make us feel a way, we cannot join the world in beating ourselves down. We have to be our own ally. And the way that I think about it, because I have such a harsh inner voice, is would I say what I'm thinking to my best friend, to my child, to somebody that I really deeply love? Would I speak and would I criticize them as harshly as I criticize myself? And the answer typically is no. So, with that being said, I want us and I want you to love on yourself. You may not love all that you see about yourself, and that's human, that's fine. But remember all of the work that your body does for you on a daily that is not even conscious, that you're not conscious of. But your body is constantly working for you to sustain you. And that's something. So, whether or not you decide to, take a GLP-1 or go on crash diets and this and that, I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You do what is best for you because we all are trying. Remember what your body is doing for you and love yourself and respect yourself and revere yourself a little bit more. The other thing that I want to remind you is the body is going to change. So the body that we had when we were 17, 18 won't be the same body that we have when we're 27, then 37, and then 47. And that's okay. And our bodies are designed to adapt, to change. Usually those adaptations are literally for our survival, right? Even the things that we may not necessarily like about the way our bodies have changed. Again, it's our body's way of figuring out how can we live? How can we survive this season in our lives? So it's okay. Embrace the change. One of the things that I have loved to see is to see the icons and people that I consider to be really beautiful. I love to see them age. For example, Beyonce. I love me some Beyonce. But it is so nice and refreshing to see how she has evolved physically, even. And even her voice has changed a bit. Her voice has gotten deeper. And I was watching a video of a vocal coach. So he's like a vocal expert. And he was saying how her voice has gotten deeper over the years because of, especially after her first pregnancy, because of the effects of estrogen, thickening the vocal cords a little bit. And now she has an even greater range, vocal range. So even outside of her artistry and how that has grown and how her voice has changed, physically, she has changed to some degree. She's still remarkable, still just everything, gorgeous, but she's changed a little bit, and it's so refreshing to see. Another person that comes to mind is Tracy Ellis Ross. I remember watching Girlfriends from episode 1 to the last episode, and even now she's changed a bit. So look at the greats, look at the people that we typically admire. There has been some change, and it is okay. There's this emphasis on remaining youthful, and yes, I get it, but we're not meant to be youth forever, right? Youthful forever. We're meant to have our different stages in life. And I really want us to get to a place where we embrace that. And the last thing as it relates to our bodies, I want to emphasize is the importance of movement, but not for punishment. I am one of those people who, from the time I was maybe like 10, I was on a diet, child. I was on a diet and I was doing workout videos, not necessarily because I wanted to maintain my health, but because I was punishing myself. So if I had, like, I don't know, fast food or something like that, I remember since very young, I would either restrict my food, and we'll talk about that later some other time, or I would exercise as a form of punishment. And that mentality really carried on into my deep adulthood. It wasn't maybe until I was like in my mid 30s that I realized that movement should not be a punishment. Movement should be a way that I speak to my body, a way that I reward my body, a way that I replenish my body and care for my body. It doesn't have to be that I put myself through these grueling exercises that I don't even like because I ate something that was, quote, bad. That's not healthy. And it's not sustainable either, because what would happen? I would go on these binges where I'm going hard in the gym for some time, doing things that I don't enjoy doing, but then I would just fall off because I didn't like it. Movement is a way to just maintain our health, or maybe get to a certain level of health. It's not to punish us. Our bodies don't deserve punishment. If anything, they need tender loving care. The same care that we give our children, or the same care that we give people that we deeply love, we have to give that same care to ourselves. Let us talk about our skin a little bit. So our skin is going to change throughout the years, right? So some of us may have acne early on, during like the high school years, and some of us may not. And then maybe a little bit later, towards our late 20s or early 30s, mid 30s, we start to develop like acne and changes in our skin. Our skin is under hormonal influence, in the same way that our the levels may change. It may also be reflected in our skin. So if you have a skincare regimen that you love right now, and then all of a sudden it changes, be flexible, change with it. There's nothing wrong with you per se. It's just that our bodies are going through different cycles, and we need to honor that. So that is one thing. And then also, as it relates to skin, I don't care what is your complexion, what is your ethnicity, where you're people from, we all need sunscreen. The earlier we make that part of our skincare routine, the better. Some people have said, well, you know what? My grandmother never wore sunscreen, and look at her, she looks amazing. And that's probably true, but we have no ozone left. That's an exaggeration, but the impact of the environmental changes on our ozone layer, which helps to filter out some of the UVA, UVB rays, and we don't talk about it enough. So we need to do what we can to protect our skin. The reason why there could be accelerated aging in terms of like wrinkles, lines, and things like that, hyperpigmentation, is because our skin is doing what it can, but is losing a fighting battle against those UV rays. So what can we do? We can get some sunscreen. There are so many different options on the market now as it relates to sunscreen. So based off of your skincare needs. So whether you have dry skin, oily skin, combination skin, whether you want mineral sunscreen or chemical sunscreen, there are so many options and you don't have to spend a fortune on them either. So find one that works for you and hold on, stick to that bad boy forever. It is super, super important to do so. The next thing that I want to give you a little bit of advice about is about our moods, right? So, of course, we know that stress plays a huge role in our moods, right? So, if we're going through it and we're getting in every which way, whether it's work or school or family, relationships, get it, right? But it's not only what's happening in terms of our stress that has a huge role in our mood. So, what can we do to help ourselves? Okay. The first thing I'm going to say is protein at breakfast is so important. A lot of times we eat just, carb heavy meals for breakfast. If we have breakfast at all, a lot of us run on Dunkin', shout out to Dunkin', but we need more than just caffeine to sustain us, especially as our first meal. Protein is the foundation for the neurotransmitters that our brain creates that's going to help elevate the mood. If our bodies do not have that adequate amount of protein, we're setting ourselves back for the day. So it's super important for us to have protein at breakfast. That'll give us a better chance at having a better day. The other thing that I want to talk about as it relates to mood is having a hobby is so important. I get it. For so many years, I used to hate this question. Like whenever I had interviews and people would ask, oh, what do you do for fun? And I'm just like, girl, ain't no fun. Like I'm either studying, I'm interning, I am working. Then I became a parent. Like I was like, ain't no time for fun. But it's so important to have a hobby. Creative expression is a really important neuroregulation tool that we don't talk enough about. So things like cooking, gardening, painting, roller skating, sewing, knitting, crocheting, like all those things are really, really important as it relates to being able to regulate ourselves. So research shows that whenever we enter into flow states, whenever we're doing something creative, that is going to activate our parasympathetic nervous system. And that is our rest and digest system. So whenever our nervous systems feel that we are safe, this is the portion that will be more active. So doing things that are creative in nature plays a huge role in our mood and regulating our nervous system. And we don't talk about that enough. So if you don't have a hobby, I want you to explore some different things. Find out what you may or may not like. One of the things I would say is, what did you like as a kid? So like 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old you, what did you enjoy doing? Revisit that and see if you still enjoy doing it, because that might be your hobby. And then if you do already have a hobby, make intentional time in your routine to do that thing, because it's so important. It really, our well-being kind of depends on it, especially in the culture that we live in where we're constantly going, and working and producing. That's great, but we need to do something that is purely just for the fun of it to really activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So lastly, I will say it's so important to cultivate female relationships. So platonic relationships is so, so important. As of 2024, the US life expectancy at birth is 79 years, with women living significantly longer than men. So it's approximately 81.4 years for women versus 76.5 years for men. And what research is finding is that one of the reasons why we have a couple of years more is because women are very intentional about maintaining their social circles, whereas men, not necessarily. So it really is important for us to have those relationships with women. So build your sisterhood like your life depends on it, because it literally does. Research is showing that when you feel loved, supported, and connected, your body is going to release things like oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin. And these are all going to be things that are going to boost our mood and also extend our longevity. And they also make your quality of life just better. Like, I love my husband. He's literally one of my best friends. He was my best friend before we got together in that way. But there's nothing like my sisterhood. Like, my sisters are my everything. So if you don't have like one or two solid girlfriends, I really suggest that you look around and to see where you can invest more in people, like your time and your curiosity in people, to maybe cultivate those relationships. Super, super important. And lastly, as you are in the thick of building the life that you absolutely love, right? I want you to think about two versions of yourself: your 13-year-old self and then your 83-year-old self. Okay. And I want you to think about, how can I make both of these people proud? Because typically our 13-year-old self is wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and had a vision of what she would be like as an adult, right? Whereas our 83-year-old selves will be looking back, and we don't want to look back with regret. So how can we maximize the time that we have today? Not just, being productive and building our legacies, as it relates to our careers and things. Those are all great things. But in what ways are you like really maximizing your time today? So again, how can you make 13-year-old you and 83-year-old you just really, really proud? Just some food for thought. So that is all I have for you today. As always, thank you so much for joining. I am so glad you're here. And until next time, be well, sis. Thank you for listening to this episode of Be Well, Sis. If you'd like to get in touch with us, there's a link in the show notes. Be Well, Sis is hosted by me, Dr. Cassandre Dunbar, and produced by Edit Audio. Don't forget to hit follow so you never miss an episode. Until next time, be well, sis.